Welcome back to this edition of Grizzlies Daily. I'm your host, Melek. And just before we get into this, I want to shout out Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring the video. We'll talk about them later on in that video. I'll explain everything that goes on and how you can play with them and all the things of that nature. But once again, shout out to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this video. Now let's get into the nitty gritty. Look, I got some updates regarding Morant and the Grizzlies, things of that nature. Nothing like too crazy, but I am seeing multiple reports that he is in Berlin and he could play. He could play come time come time of Thursday. So there is a possibility that we could see Morant hit the court against the Magic. Now, when it comes to the whole trade ordeal, I've seen a few packages, and I've already given my stance on it. Y'all remember, I gave two perspectives to the mantle, and I've already said that I gotta be honest, I don't think a deal ends up happening just because the John Morant market, the value, I don't think it's necessarily something that would benefit both teams, if I'm being honest. Unless you get a deal that just absolutely, stands out to you, I don't think a team trades for Morant and, is happy with just getting him straight up, if I'm being honest. It's just kind of where the market is at right now when it comes to him. But I have seen some trade packages that have kind of stood out to me. Well, not really stood out, but more so just like on the radar. I've seen a few people say, because of Ja Morant's value and the things that have been going on and things like that, it's going to be very hard for the Grizzlies to come back with a first-round pick if they do decide to trade him. More than likely, you just match his salary. So it's more so just like that kind of thing. And it's really just a matter of what do the Grizzlies like. And honestly, I think right now you just bite the bullet. If you're not going to get a pick back, I think you just bite the bullet. Unless you just want to start fresh completely. But a few deals I'm seeing, obviously, we've seen Ja Morant to Miami for Tyler Hero. I'm not the biggest fan of that deal because Tyler Hero is somebody that also struggles with injury, and quite frankly, I just don't think he's a fit. I'll be honest. I just don't think he's a fit, especially when you get rid of playmaking. You're not replacing it with more playmaking. So that's something that really I keep in mind with that. Next deal is Milwaukee. The Grizzlies will get back Kyle Kuzma and Kevin Porter Jr. in the 2026 first-round spot. I'm not really a fan of this either because Milwaukee is a team that I don't think you necessarily would want to pick from. But, I mean, I guess I could understand why, but not really. And then not to mention, I'm just not big on Kyle Kuzma or Kevin Porter Jr. Those are two players that are pretty inconsistent to me. Kevin Porter Jr. has actually been playing pretty good. Kyle Kuzma, on the other hand, I don't know if I can handle Kyle Kuzma in the Grizzlies jersey. I'm just being honest with y'all. I watched him in the Lakers jersey, and I watched him in another jersey. Just not it. I'm sorry. Detroit, this is laughable. I can't lie. It's Gary Harris and cash considerations. First of all, why would Detroit even get Ja Morant? They have Cade Cunningham, and they got Jaden Ivey. Why would they get Ja Morant? Secondly, Gary Harris for Ja Morant in 2026, it could be 2035 for all I care. And I still wouldn't trade Gary Harris for Ja Morant straight up. Let's be serious. Then the next one is actually probably one of the better ones, if I'm being honest. Is Ja Morant to the Raptors for Emmanuel Quickly, Ochai Agbaji, and 2026 first round pick, top 14 protected. I actually don't hate this deal, mostly because Emmanuel Quickly is a guy who isn't necessarily the greatest shooter, but once he gets it going, is very good. A very good shot, pretty good playmaker, fast-paced offensive guy. And he got Ochai Agbaji, who's a really good player for his size, really good defender, and can be an offensive impact player too. So I wouldn't really hate that deal, if I'm being honest. And then the last one is obviously the Timberwolves. You got obviously speculations around that. You got Rob Dillingham, Nas Reed, and the 2022 second round pick. If I'm being honest, I don't think there's a world where Nas Reed is the answer for the Grizzlies. I mean, he'd be a nice piece, but I don't think he's the answer. And when it comes to Rob Dillingham, I like the guy. I really do. I do think his game is a little reckless, but hey, only time will tell. But that's just like some of the latest updates regarding Ja. Like I said, nothing is confirmed, But like I said, I've already taken my stance on it. I don't think a deal ends up happening. So I don't really see the point unless talks just ramp up, then we're talking a different story. Now let's switch it over to the next guy, Mr. 8, Jaren. Obviously, teams are. It's been said that teams are making calls because of the whole Ja news. Jaren is up for grabs, not necessarily by the team, but other teams are making calls for him. So, I'm trying to find some packages that people are proposing. It's not really necessarily anything that's like just standing out, but I do see a lot of people saying if they were to trade Jaren, they would look back for young players and draft picks, but if not, they would go for potentially established stars. So looking at this, it's the Raptors are also a team that has I've seen plenty of Raptors fans say that Jaren will be a dream target alongside Scottie Pippen. Now, I don't know exactly who they would give up. I'm pulling up an article right now to see if there's somewhere where the Grizzlies could get something back in return. It doesn't really say, just more so just says how they would move with they would go for Jaren. But it's not really many packages that necessarily are going for Jaren right now because this is fresh. Now, we did see, I did tell y'all that Milwaukee is a team that is set to make calls regarding Jaren. I think I have an article pulled up right here, actually, that kind of goes into detail. Right here. More so just, it's more so just kind of necessarily. So right now I'm looking at it. It says Toronto, Atlanta, and Dallas are suitors for potentially getting Jaren. Dallas makes a lot of sense considering they took the chance on Anthony Davis, and we're seeing how that's working out. Not really good. Atlanta, I could see Atlanta wanting to go after him, especially with moving on from Trae Young. They may want to start fresh with a guy to build around. And then Toronto, we already mentioned them. So right now the market isn't too big on Jaren Jackson, but it's also, not really confirmed that the Grizzlies are looking to trade Jaren Jackson. I've given my thoughts on it. I'm not going to go too much into detail about it, but I have the ways I feel about Jaren. But look, if they decide to move on, they move on. It's just what it is at this point. But while we're here, I do want to take a break real quick to talk about Underdog Fantasy. Fast breaks, buzzer beaters, and block parties are back, and Underdog is the best place to get in on all the action. Playing on Underdog is very easy. You just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like points, rebounds, steals, and more. This week on Underdog, I'm looking at two players in particular. It's just simple. You pull up the app right here, and then you go to wherever you want to go, and you select two players that you want. So for today, I have Steph Curry going higher than 28.5 points against the Golden State Warriors. And then next, I would say I think I'm going lower on Tyler Hero. Miami plays the Phoenix Suns, so I'm going lower at 20.5 points. So it's very easy. That's all you do. You just put it in and you play it. And you download the Underdog app today and you use promo code BasketballFan to score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code BasketballFan. Underdog is where you make picks and you win money. So shout out to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back into it. Now, just want to talk about it because I've given my thoughts. And look, I wasn't on the bandwagon, but I am standing 10 toes on it. I am out on Twyman Cizelo. I really do not think he is the guy. And I really say that because healthy or not, this is one thing I would give credit to Taylor Jenkins. Taylor Jenkins never switched up the plan if somebody was hurt. That was it. He never switched it up if somebody was hurt. He never made anybody feel early on. Let me say early on. He never really made anybody feel undervalued, if that makes sense. And depending on the moment, there were times where you saw guys who usually wouldn't close games. Now, I can say we did see that with Taylor Jenkins, so I would give him credit to that. With Izolo, I'm not seeing that. To me, it's like, look, even if the Grizzlies do make a run in the postseason by some miraculous way, a long winning streak or something, I just don't think he's the answer. I got to be honest. It's too many things. he just feels like he doesn't know what's going on. He's just reliable. It feels like, and I hate this because I really tried to advocate for Islo being the coach of the team, but it just feels like he's running like a a script. It feels like he's looking at a script when he coaches. It's kind of like, how do I explain it? It's like when it's like a substitute teacher. They just come in, they're like, hey, I already know what I'm gonna say and all this and that, but if something goes off the rails, they're like, I didn't prepare for that. So we're just gonna turn on this movie and call it a day because I don't know what to do, and I'll just explain what happened later in the press conference where I don't really know what to say. That's how it feels with Thomas Islo. I know that's a crazy analogy, but that's like the best thing I could come up with. So hopefully that resonates with some of y'all. But I gotta be honest, I'm on the bandwagon because look, at the end of the day, I give y'all news and things like that, but at the same time, I can call a spade, and I'm a fan at the end of the day, and my fandom wants the Grizzlies to move on from what we're dealing with Thomas Islo. So I do have a few names pulled up, and like I said, I do want to hear y'all's thoughts in the comments. These are just the names that I think would stand out best for the Grizzlies. Obviously, we talked about Mike Malone, championship caliber coach, a coach that's not afraid to get under a player's skin and get them riled up. I'm not totally against that. Budenholzer is an option, although I don't think Budenholzer's philosophy matches it. I know he's played with Giannis, but it's really just dependent. I don't know because I'm very skeptical on Budenholzer. I can't lie. You got Tom Thibodeau. And look, he solved the starting rotation problem. I give him that. But one thing about Tibbs, he does not play his bench, and we got some good guys on the bench. So I don't know if completely icing them out would be a good deal. So I don't know about Tom Thibodeau. You got Frank Vogel, who I'm not necessarily against. He's coached some very good teams. I think he's a coach that really could thrive well in Memphis, so I'm not against Frank Vogel. Monty Williams is a coach I'm very skeptical on because he's had his years where he's a good coach and good outcomes, but at the same time, he also has times where if he doesn't have it figured out, the team is going to struggle. And that's one thing about Monty Williams. He's a very hit or miss coach, and that's just something that I don't know if I'm a fan of. And then the last option being Mike D'Antoni. Let's be real. Mike D'Antoni is a guy where I think his offense works good for the Grizzlies if they truly do figure it out. This is a guy, and I mean this is a guy who is known for having a fast-paced offense. Now, the only problem with Mike D'Antoni is he is 74, so you're not going to have him around as a coach for long if you were to get him. But the thing about Mike D'Antoni that really is just very skeptical of me is how fast his offense is. I mean, look, Mike D'Antoni is a guy who essentially I'm not gonna say popularized, but he essentially made it normal for teams to have a 7 seconds or less offense. That was his whole philosophy in Phoenix. So, and then you brought that over to Houston, and then that kind of worked out. It's just a matter of, I think you need the Grizzlies to really understand how that works, because with a team that does turn over the ball a lot and doesn't really have the best shooters in the league, you're running a very risky game with Mike D'Antoni. So those are just some of the names that I see if the Grizzlies decide, hey, look, Islo just isn't the guy. And really, I think Islo isn't the guy because I don't think any of us could have predicted that at this point the Grizzlies would have 22 losses. Just being honest, I don't think anybody could have predicted at this point that the Grizzlies would have 30 losses or close to 30 losses before the trade, not even the trade deadline, the All-Star break. So that's me. I'm just not, like I said, I'm just not the biggest fan of it, if I'm being honest. And then he's proven that he can't coach against good teams. So now we're going to read your comments because I didn't the last video because I had a lot to say, but y'all did show a lot of love in this. We got over 30 comments. Obviously not going to be able to read all of them. I'm literally just going to summarize a lot of these as best as I can, and I'll give y'all my thoughts, and I'd love to hear y'all response as we go. This first comment says a few facts. The Grizzlies have not yet signed a new long-term lease at the Phase 4 to remain in Memphis beyond the current agreement, which runs through the 28-29 season. And the Grizzlies are near bottom in home attendance figures. Fans, less than 15,000 fans show up for home games. I mean, that's what we already know. I know a lot of people like to bring that point up, but I mean, I really think we're just kind of milking it a little bit. I don't think it's that necessarily a big of a deal. I mean, look, if I get proven wrong, I get proven wrong, but I really don't think it's that big of a deal with the leasing thing. I think they figure it out. And because, like I said, I think the city is going to do anything they can to keep the Grizzlies here. That to me is just it. That's literally the moneymaker of this city, right there. Now, next comment says, just I guess talking about my comments as far as the two-way player and that things like that. Okay, I'm really trying to summarize this. I'm just gonna read this line. The Spurs just beat the Thunder, and Victor only scored 12 points. Jaren hit all his free throws and drew at least 4 fouls. He also committed 4 fouls, putting him in the penalty. You know what that means? They were hacking him because he was being aggressive. He only took 11 shots. It's not like he was out there chucking. Oh, wait. There's more to this. Now, if he was 3 for 20, that'd be a different conversation, but you're acting like players don't have bad games. And Jaren is the number one option that's always performed well when he had a real point guard like Tyus. They were winning near 70% of their games without Ja until the year we set the injury record. The organization wasted more years investing in Ja's popularity than in Jaren's development. Let's look up Jaren Jackson Jr. stats. Let's just get this over with, because I'm sorry, I'm not finna get called a hater from what I'm seeing or what I have seen from Jaren. You know what? Let's do the last 5 games. Let's do that. All right, against Brooklyn, 3-for-11. Against OKC, 9-of-14. I give credit where credit is due, even though that second half he went kind of ghost. Phoenix, 9-of-19. I'll give him a pass on that because he was feeling sick. I'll give him a pass. Spurs, 7-of-16. He played good this game, 5 threes. I give him credit for that. The Lakers, 6-of-14. And in the game before that, he actually did good. I mean, look, like I said, the one thing I would give credit to Jaren for is his ability to play. He's only missed, 2 games this year? I give credit where credit is due. But if you look at the numbers, Jaren is averaging 18.5 points. When was the last time he averaged 18 points? When he was a defensive player of the year. That was 3 years ago. His fouls, still at 4 a game. His block numbers have went down. And to me, that kind of doesn't make sense because you don't have a definitive center here. So, what's up? Rebounding numbers literally have not changed. 5.6. And then we look at shooting, 47% from the field, 36% from 3. For a forward, that's actually very good. So I give him credit for that. I would give him credit for that. But here's the problem. How much longer do we give him credit before we start calling him out on what he's doing? I need y'all to understand. Jaren Jackson Jr., starting next year, Jaren Jackson Jr., his projected salary is $49 million. Then after that is 50. Then after that is 52. Then after that is 53.5 with a player option, I might add you. Meaning he gets to choose what he does in the 29-30 season. And if you look at all the salaries for right now, if Jaren was to start making the money that he's made, Jaren would be the 17th highest paid player. And I'm going to name everybody that's getting paid higher than him. And you tell me if they don't deserve the same criticism. If Jaren doesn't deserve the same criticism they would get if he played bad. Number 1, Stephen Curry. Joel Embiid. Jokic. Durant. Karl-Anthony Towns. Giannis. Luka. I shouldn't even have to speak on Luka. They calling Luka lazy right now. And do you know the projections that they had with the Lakers? They calling Luka lazy right now. Even the organization is calling him out on it. But let's continue. Jimmy Butler, Anthony Davis, Jason Tatum, Bradley Beal. That is the one exception I see on this list. Bradley Beal, I'm sorry, excuse my language. Bradley Beal is ass. Straight like that. I'm talking BBL, booty, Atlanta, Magic City ass. Simple as that. Next up, Devin Booker, Jaylen Brown, LeBron James, Paul George, and then Kawhi Leonard. Paul George is another exception because he's not really at the same player that he was. But you tell me, if any of these players played the same level that Jaren is doing, they would get criticized. So why is it a problem when I come after Jaren for not being the player up to the potential that he could? I don't understand the logic sometimes. And I'm trying to understand some of y'all. I really am. But I don't see what y'all are seeing and why I cannot hold Jaren accountable for being 3-for-11 against the Brooklyn Nets. Let's be real here. And as far as we don't have bad games, I feel like I have this conversation every 2 weeks. Not even every 2 weeks, probably every 2 games. We have to call out our stars. I don't know why that's a problem. I don't know why. My God. Okay, I'm going to move on because it's really going to really going to irritate me again. Next comment says, I think it's kind of been forgotten that Ja is actually a pass first point guard. He's an actual playmaker. He just also has to be really good at scoring, so we've been calling him to be more of a scorer because of that. But that's probably been the problem this whole time, with his primary style of scoring being to gleefully attack the rim with no fear is given at 174 pounds. It's only going to result in bumps and injuries. And I actually kind of did say this. I said this in the offseason. Ja needed to put on more muscle. Ja, for the way that Ja plays, he needs to put on more muscle. And even then, I said if he can get a consistent mid-range shot going, that would be fine too. The problem is, Ja tried to get the three-point shot going, and it ain't hitting. That's why I said the mid-range is good enough, but Ja it's just not looking good. You also said in this, let Ja be in attack mode, but as a smart, highly aware first point guard and playmaker he is, I see Ja's game and approach is less of a taller AI and more to a shorter Penny Hardaway. Yeah, I mean, look, this just goes back to Izolo, if I'm being honest. Like I said, I don't understand. Sometimes I really don't understand like why we don't use Jaren and Ja in the two-man game more. I get Jaren doesn't really set the greatest screens. I will say that. But at the same time, you got to give him a chance. I'm sorry. You have to give him a chance outside of the paint and out of the low block. Next part of it says, make Cedric and Edie, if he can stay healthy, your main scoring options. I don't know. Cedric, I'm cool with that. Edie, though, I don't know about Edie. I don't know about Edie being one of the main scoring options. I think Edie gets it how he gets it, but I don't know. Developing an offense around Edie, I have my skepticism. But obviously it goes more as he develops. Now, if he develops into more of a big paint scorer, then yeah, sure. Absolutely. Sure. I'm going to read 2 more comments because I can't lie to y'all. A lot of comments are really just kind of saying the same thing. Just like, hey, y'all's thoughts on trading Jaren. So I'm really just kind of looking at look at some of the things that are outside of the box, if that makes sense. I really tried to read all of them, but I don't really want this video to kind of stretch out longer, if that makes sense. Next comment says, trade everybody besides Coward. Malik is right. Ja might not ever be traded. The Grizzlies are right by showing him he can be traded. Josh should get another contract way less than Jaren's, and it should have some Zion Williamson language in there about health and fitness. Now, yes. Hey, you know what? I think you kind of hit it right on the nail. I think if you do sign Ja, you have to put some clauses in there. You got to put some clauses in there like, hey, man, look, we get it. You the franchise, but, hey, look, nobody's bigger than the program. You need to do something to improve yourself. You need to gain 15 pounds in muscle in the off season or something. Just something to add to it. Because, like I said, I really think him not adding on muscle is what's hurting him the most. I mean, you look at guys like Michael Jordan. He's somebody that, look, when he played the bad boy Pistons, he used to get hit, bruised, and all this and that. He went in the gym. And look at him. Once he got over the hump in the Pistons, he became the greatest of all time. So, Look, I'm not saying Josh Jordan, but it wouldn't hurt to take something from that, you know. This says I think this says I think Isolo can figure out how to win in 2 or 3 more years. Isolo and Ja can't stay together. Memphis shouldn't keep both Ja and Jaren. This duo is cooked. If we traded Jaren, we'll probably get more assets. At that point, Ja will play less than 40 games, and Memphis can lock in a top 10 draft pick again. Kleiman can get what he wants, more rookies to build around. Kleiman operates like one of those churches that continues to collect for the building fund, but never builds anything. That's I feel wrong laughing at that. But to answer your point, like I said, I have my thoughts on Islo. I think long term, I've seen enough to know that he's just not it. So that's my thoughts on that. As far as everything else, you do get more assets if you trade Jaren because Jaren's value is much higher. A lot of teams, like I said, I've said, look, as much as we have my thoughts on Jaren, because I advocated for Jaren all this offseason, things like that. 29 out of 30 teams are going to try to get Jaren Jackson Jr. They want Jaren Jackson Jr. on the team. So that's just a matter of the reality. You're going to get assets if you were to do that. But to me, I would say, like I said, the organization just needs a hard reset. I think right now, Kleiman has peaked as a GM. The moves he make are just something. I think it's just irreversible, if I'm being honest, and he's trying to reverse it. And then, like I said, my thoughts on Islo, I think he's just not it. Simple as that. Let's see if we can read one more. We'll read this one right here because it's a pretty good thought. What's the point of keeping a disgruntled player who's not at all interested in playing for the team anymore? Ja's done in Memphis. Time for him to spread his wings and find a new home where there's enough professional support and deep faith in him as a returning superstar. In return, Memphis can start rebuilding around other players and making long-term plans for their dreams and contending without wasting any more time. Like I said, I've given both of my takes on the whole Ja Morant deal, why they should trade him, why they shouldn't. Like I said, pros and cons. They match up in some way. It's no real way to say it. But if I'm being honest, look, I think more so the part about all this that really frustrates me is when you tell people why Josh should be traded, their response is always, well, he's the franchise. He's this and that. When healthy, he's this and that. And look, like I said, I advocate for Ja and all this and that, but it's also just like, do y'all watch the games? Like, do y'all not, understand that he's not playing? Like, he's only played 18 games, and we're about to approach game number 40. He ain't even played 50% of games, and this has been a recurring thing for 3 years. Like, it's just like, I think more so the whole frustration about this thing is just nobody. You ask somebody right now why the Grizzlies shouldn't trade Ja, and I promise you're going to get the exact same thing. You're going to get the exact answer I did, and that's why I'm not commenting on the matter, because it's like I know it's going to be said, and I'm telling y'all right now, if trading Ja means the Grizzlies become a definitive playoff team in the future, then I say go for it. But if you cannot provide me a reason for why the Grizzlies should keep Ja outside of the fact that he's the franchise and he had 2 really good years in 21 and from 2021 to 2023, then you can't speak on the matter. Simple as that. You can say, look, you can call me a bad journalist. You can say I don't know what I'm talking about on all this and that. You can say whatever. But at the end of the day, if you cannot give me a valid reason for why the Grizzlies should or should not trade Ja outside the fact that he's a franchise player that did this and that when he was in his prime, well, not his prime, but at his peak at the time, then don't talk ball with me. Simple as that, because I'm be honest, it's going to piss me off. And as you can see, I have the ability to really call this team out when it matters the most. So that's all my thoughts on that. I know this one was kind of a little reckless, but hey, we gonna get back to normal. Like I said, I just gotta have some grievances that I've been seeing, and it's been frustrating me, and I feel like I need to get that off my chest. So that's gonna wrap up this lengthy edition of Grizzlies Daily. See, this is what happens when we get a lot of news and the things we're talking about. So really appreciate y'all's support on this in the last video. If you like this video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you get notified when tomorrow's video comes out. And my name is Melek, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace.